Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Wyoming Stuff YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at a project making a buck 110 leather sheath. So I want to show you guys how you can make your own leather sheath for the buck 110, which is a fantastic knife and just needs to be carried more often, and sometimes you need a better way to carry a knife like this. So I'm going to show you how to wet mold some veg tan leather to get yourself a sheath like this. It's a little more streamlined, a little easier to conceal so that you can get more use out of your buck 110. This is going to be video one of a two-part series, so sit back and enjoy. And at the end of the video, make sure you let me know if you have comments or questions. Thanks, guys. First thing you got to do is soak your piece of leather that you're going to use for the molding portion of your holster. We'll get our wet piece of leather, put it here on this block that I'm going to be using. And first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and trim the top of this piece of leather with my edge beveler, because once I staple it down and get the buck 110 on here, I will not have the opportunity to do that because of the shape of this edge after I start molding. So we'll go ahead and get that trimmed in. And then I will start the process of tacking this down and molding. I'm gonna do the shaping with this antler that I found years ago. It's turned out to be the perfect tool for shaping leather, and it's a common tool used for this purpose. So we've got it roughly shaped how we want it. As this leather dries, it's going to be a little more malleable and it's going to hold its form better. So I'll come back in here in an hour or so when this leather's getting a little more dry, and I will run the antler across all these creases again just to solidify those. Once you get to this point, what I like to do is just to make sure it stays tight, and to give you a little bit more control, I'll take some staples and move them in here a little bit closer, making sure not to get too close. I want to leave enough room around this for sewing after we cut this out. So I'm back an hour later. The leather's not dry yet, but it's more dry. It's a little more malleable. It should hold its form a little better. So I'm going to put some final creases on here and just finish forming this a little bit. All right, so we're going to go ahead and scribe a line around here that we'll use later when we stitch around this knife. I've already started. You'll just take your awl and put pressure down. Make sure you stay nice and close to the contours of this knife so that when the time comes that you're using this sheath, your knife will stay nice and snug in here. That'll help keep everything nice and tight. Be real careful though at this point, because the leather is really impressionable. Any pressure that you put on here with anything that's hard will leave a mark that doesn't come off, including your fingernails. So you have to be real careful. Make sure you know where your fingers are. Make sure you take your time as you work around this with your awl, because you don't want lines that you can't get out in a place where you didn't intend for them to be. We've got our first line in here. I'm going to go ahead and take my compass and we'll use that to scribe our second line where we'll do our double stitch, and also to put our final line in for the outside profile of our sheath. We've got our 3 lines scribed in here. We'll use this outside line to cut around the profile of our sheath, and the other 2 lines to sew. We'll wait till tomorrow to cut this out till the leather's dried all the way, just to make sure we have this final mold of the sheath hardened all the way before we make any cuts. We don't want this leather to spread apart when we cut it out and lose the shape that we have here. So we'll cut this all the way out tomorrow. It's the next morning. We're ready to cut this sheath out. It hardened up really nicely. It's got a nice shape to it. You can take your buck and try it out at this point if you want to. Got a nice tight fit. I think this is gonna work well. After we get it sewed together, we'll be able to do some final forming on this if we want to refine it. But it's looking great so far. So I'll go ahead and use my utility knife to cut this out, and then we'll talk about the next step. Well, that's all for this video, guys. Next time, I'll show you how to take this and turn it in to this. So we just gotta put the back on, do our sewing. We're gonna put a clip on the back, and we'll be ready to go. So that you can have a sheath for your Buck 110 that allows you to use it on a daily basis. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.